Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you again to another edition of Soulivity Today, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and we have another amazing show for you today. But I'm joined by my wonderful friends and co-hosts, Sheila Applegate, the host of Consciously Awesome Living, that's here on Soulivity TV, and Sinead O'Brien, the director of Racial Fairness Berkshires. Good morning to both of you.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Wow. Such an incredible week. We're in the midst of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. It seems as though in the wake of the racist shooting in Jacksonville, Florida, it left three Black people dead with a white gunman opening fire at a Dollar General store. It's just all this stuff is going on simultaneously. And, you know, you have to ask the question, when does the violence against communities of color end? Well, today we're going to look at another form of violence that has been on the rise in American public schools. In many districts across the nation, our schools have become a battleground for political and cultural conflict, with children becoming the casualties of it all. The country over the past year or so has witnessed an explosion of fights over which books should be stocked in school libraries, and dozens of states and school boards choosing to ban the teaching of critical race theory or reverse policies that supported LGBTQ plus students. This is especially true in areas that are the classic swing areas, where principals in these communities were, for example, nearly twice as likely to have dealt with multiple instances of individuals trying to limit or challenge LGBTQ plus students' rights. In nearly 2 in 3 purple areas, principals also reported at least one instance of individuals challenging instruction about issues of race and racism. A story from the USA Today, principals in purple communities were significantly less likely than they were in 2018 to say that their districts offer professional development for teaching about sensitive subjects, or their leaders have made statements in support of equity and inclusion practices. You know, it seems that the echoes of old and tired discrimination without the classroom is also on the rise as well, as we see more and more complaints from parents on how their child is treated by certain educators. In fact, here's a story coming from Flagler County, Florida, where a principal and teacher are on leave after telling a segregated assembly of school's Black and 4th grade students to improve their collective results. Thanks to First Coast News for this story.
Tonight, a principal and teacher are on administrative leave after a controversial lesson at a First Coast school. As we first reported last night, a group of Black 4th and 5th grade students were pulled from class at Bunnell Elementary School and subjected to threats over their academic performance. The district has apologized to the families and says there is an investigation. Our Taylor Levesque is on your side tonight. She's joining us outside the school with reaction from parents and school leaders.
Flagler County Schools calls last week's assembly at Bunnell Elementary School a horrible, horrific mistake that should have never happened. Interim Superintendent LaShaka Moore says now the district must ensure it doesn't happen again.
Going forward, if a group of students are going to be brought in and there is going to be a conversation conducted with them that is outside of what families send them to school to be educated on, their standards, then parents should be notified about that.
Flagler County Interim Superintendent LaShaka Moore said Thursday she is working to determine why a group of Black 4th and 5th grade students were pulled from their classes and singled out for a presentation on low test scores.
This should not have happened.
This PowerPoint the district gave us includes several grammatical errors. Listed under the problem, AA referring to African Americans, quote, have underperformed on standardized assessment for the past 3 years. Parents say students were told if they did not get their scores up, they'd end up in jail or dead if they do not succeed. Moore says those comments are being investigated.
We do have 2 individuals that are on administrative leave.
Jacinda Harrington and Alexis Smith's children were among the more than 30 students pulled out of class just weeks into the school year.
I feel like if other families weren't speaking out, I feel like this could have been potentially something swept under the rug.
Moore says she has spoken to most of the families impacted.
What do we do now? How do we work together as a community, which is inclusive of our families? How do we work together in order to ensure that we're never in this place again?
Moore says next Tuesday, August 29th, there will be a community forum for parents and students to attend to help improve the outcome for all students. In Flagler County, Taylor Levesque, First Coast News, on your side.
Mm, mm, mm. Ladies. Yeah. Got to get this question out to you both. You're both mothers. Sinead, your child is probably within this age range, right? Around 4th, 5th, 6th grade, somewhere around there.
Exactly. Yeah. Starting 5th grade this week.
Wow. I'll just ask you, what would your feelings be if your child was segregated? Because this was a segregated assembly. They took the Black children and corralled them into the assembly hall and then told them they have to improve their school performance because if they don't, they'll end up in jail or dead.
So at first word, outrage, obviously, but that's
Yeah.
exactly it. They segregated them. My first thought about this was how very dare them put their pressures onto the students. I mean, this is obviously, this is something that they need to, a standard that the teachers and the districts need to meet. And to put that on the children, it is the epitome, first of all. I mean, this is not even touching upon the racism, but the utter irresponsibility of it. But to separate them in that way by race, which
Yeah.
first of all, that shouldn't be happening anyway. Didn't we just have a Supreme Court case saying that that's not okay to do in education, right?
Right,
It's
exactly.
just
Right.
So yeah, outrage, irresponsible. I would be, my hair would be on fire.
What about you, Sheila? I can already feel your energy across the airwaves here. It's like,
Well, I want to start by, I think, because we've read a lot of articles, but I think that teacher was fired since this time. Is that
Okay.
correct, Brian? I'm not sure. I
It-
hope
it's
so. If not,
yeah,
then
it's
that's
fairly
outrageous.
new. Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it just
Okay.
hit the news airwaves on Friday, Saturday time frame. So this happened
So
earlier in. I mean, schools
that
just
should be
opened.
enough time, right? It should be enough time to fire someone. But anyway,
Exactly. I know she's on
but
leave.
at the
I
same
know
time,
that
how did,
that-
yeah, how did she even have, like, I know I'm in a small school district, but how did she even arrange that without other people knowing? I would look into that as well. But of course, I would
Right.
be outraged. And I'd be outraged even if my child wasn't in that room. I'd be outraged if I didn't even have kids in the school, but it was in my neighborhood.
Right.
At the same time, uh, I'm adamantly against the impact of state testing. And like you said, Sinead, that's putting the responsibility on children. I used to send my kids to school for state testing saying, you don't even have to do anything for this. It has nothing to do with you or your career. It is for the school. So if you want to do a good job for them, great. If not, who cares? Because it's taking all of their education. I mean, we're going to get into this later, but I think
Yeah,
that the school testing is one of the number one problems in our education system. So, that combined with the blatant racism and segregation, the one thing of hope that I can bring to this is it's being seen, right? The more
yeah,
blatant and obnoxious this gets, the more we can deal with it, because sometimes the silent underwriting racism can cause more damage in the long term because we don't deal with it. I guess that's the hopeful
absolutely.
spin on that.
Absolutely. And the reaction from the parents when they found out about this was very swift. And just to let everybody know who's watching right now, both the principal and the teacher who was engaged in this, they both got put on leave. My guess is they'll be fired
Yeah.
at some point.
Mhm.
But they both got put on leave. And then what I thought was just so ironic, ladies, that here's a principal and a teacher telling students about how they have to improve their performance, after racially segregating them, when the PowerPoint that they're presenting has all kinds of grammar errors in it and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, maybe you ought to like get your act together first and then maybe talk to some
Absolutely.
people about who needs to improve. I
And
just
I
thought that
love
was
that that was
so
pointed
ironic.
out in the yeah, that the
Yeah.
newscaster pointed that out. I was very, very happy.
They were like, no, this is not us. This is not our PowerPoint that we're reporting on. This is their PowerPoint. Yeah, the I just want, again, we're bringing these stories forward because they need to be heard. A lot of times they stay in vacuums. Like First Coast News kind of reported this story. It hit the national waves a little bit, but really didn't go out anywhere. And that this is a trend. It's a trend that's going on in certain districts where you have a blend of political and cultural identities that live within it. And that there's this pushback and like kind of thing where people are getting more brazen and speaking to Black and brown and even Asian kids about stuff that they shouldn't be talking about at all. And so we're bringing this forward so that we can talk more about it. Again, audience, if you have questions or you have comments, please just post to our live feed and we'll get you in on this as well, because I think that it's important that we hear from you as well. So ladies, listen, we're going to take a quick break. Probably have a sip of coffee or maybe a cocktail at this point. But but don't worry, we'll be back with more of Soulivity today. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Starts now.
A teacher at Richmond's Bouchard Middle School placed on leave tonight after a confrontation with a 6th grade student. Video of their interaction is now circulating on social media, and in it, the teacher can be heard telling the student that only English is allowed in her classroom.
New at 11, John Hood spoke with the student and her mother about this controversy. He joins us now, and John, that video seems to paint the teacher in a fairly harsh light.
Yeah, Kurt McKee, it really does. And tonight there was a transcript of that video that was passed out to each school board member. And in it, the teacher tells the student that English is spoken in this class and to, quote, go to wherever that Spanish-speaking country is and speak it.
I don't know how many times this person said that before, and we don't know, who else is saying it.
Fix this sort of behavior that has been exhibited by so many teachers, and not just this one.
One after another, people took to podium at the Richmond School Board meeting, each one demanding answers and accountability over a recent incident at Bouchard Middle School. A 6th grader told by her teacher to stop speaking Spanish in her classroom.
I just wanted that no other Hispanic kid would go through the same thing I did.
I talked to the girl in question. She did not want to be identified.
I told one of my friends, oh, you don't have friends in Spanish, because we joke around like that. And that teacher just started yelling at me, telling me I couldn't speak Spanish.
Video of that incident was posted online last week. In a transcript passed out to the school board, the teacher tells the student her mother can come to her classroom and, quote, I'll speak English when I see her. The teacher goes on to say she's going to speak English too, period, and says the student's mom does not own the world. The student replies back saying, I didn't say she owned the world, and the teacher tells the student it's very ignorant of you to throw up your mom as if it's going to change my rules in my class. English is spoken in this class, period.
She just kept saying that it just wasn't allowed in here in America. You speak English, and that if I wanted to speak Spanish, then to go to whatever that Spanish-speaking country is.
The teacher later tells the student, quote, I told you before, I don't speak Spanish. The school board is aware of that. That's why there are Spanish-speaking classes for the kids who need a Spanish class. After more back and forth between the student and teacher, the teacher allegedly tells the student to shut up before telling the student to leave the class. The student involved in the incident tells us she didn't know what to tell her mom.
I told her that I was scared and I didn't know what to do, because I was afraid that that teacher might come back.
Now, RPS sent us a statement tonight saying that teacher is on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. But I also spoke with that student's mother, who says she's concerned that the teacher could come back. On your side tonight in Richmond, John Hood, NBC 12 News.
Woo, we're back with more here on Soulivity today as we talk about an increased trend in educator discrimination and racism amid a rise in public schools becoming hotbeds for political and cultural conflict. I want to say thank you to NBC Channel 12 in Richmond for the last story. Ladies, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? Want to frame this next question in some research that's already out here. According to Pew, elementary and secondary public school teachers in the United States are considerably less racially and ethnically diverse as a group than their students. And while the share of Black, Hispanic, and Asian American teachers has increased in recent decades, it has not kept pace with the rapid growth of racial and ethnic diversity of their students. So the question is, there's a myriad of reasons why these types of incidents happen in school. Do you believe that this is one of the central reasons for this type of behavior by educators? who I will say are ignorant, as I would say as well. Sheila, I'll go to you first.
Well, absolutely. Having a more diverse pool of teachers would help everyone, right? Like we need
Right.
to be educated in so many different areas that have to do with being part of humanity that don't come from the textbooks, and just feeling as if we are a part of the community that we're in, and an ability to identify with. At the same time, I think it is also important to make sure that teachers of any ethnicity have diversity training and understanding of the importance of language. And I think as a country, we definitely have lack we lack the ability to speak other languages, and we teach people too late. So
Yeah.
that in itself is something that we have done very wrong. There's an assumption that everyone speaks English in the world, and luckily most of them do, but we could do better, you know?
Right. Right. Agreed. Sinead, I mean, you probably are dealing with a lot of this as part of being part of the Racial Fairness Berkshires project. What are your thoughts about this? You know, if we increase diversity, if we increase equity between teachers, staff, and students, would that help in this arena, or is there something even more important?
Well, I think the bottom line, I think the horrible way in which this teacher, I use that term loosely, treated this student, I think it stems from that adult's fear and ignorance. I think that teacher, and she kept going back to saying, I don't speak Spanish. I think that's the crux of it. That student, that younger person, had knowledge that that person did not. And she was lashing out. And that stems from usually, when people are angry and hurtful when they're fearful. And that's the problem. When somebody has something that you don't, if you are an insecure person, you're going to be hurtful toward them. And that's not a position that somebody who is immature like that should be having cuss children. So that's the
Right.
first and foremost bottom
Right.
line. And that's really was galling to me. But I
Right.
definitely do think that number one, when you say equity, that's exactly it. Inclusion, bringing people in. For anyone to say you must do this, speak English, that is exclusion to the utmost.
Yeah.
You should never say, I mean, I hate to say never, but that teacher, a good, responsible teacher should say, wow, you know something I don't. Could you tell us all? Or could you maybe tell me more? But to be so hurtful and hateful that way. I know we talked earlier about my son. He's starting 5th grade. He's been learning Spanish since kindergarten. We didn't have that when I was growing up. I mean, like we had the choice to maybe take it in 9th grade. I think we've come leaps and bounds. Because lots of places understand that the more we know, the smarter we'll be, the better we'll be, the more inclusive, equitable. This kind of behavior is just it's toxic. And
Right.
oh, just one other thing. I mean, 80% of our teaching populace is white.
Right.
50% of our students are mixed, non-white. And we need to think more about that. Why is that happening? Why do we not have more of a mixed teaching population? So
Right.
it's just horrifying to me. The whole thing just hurt my
It
soul
hurts.
to hear.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
it really does.
and you know, we call ourselves a melting pot, right? This melting pot of a country and that kind of thing, where all is welcome, and no matter where you come from, everything is great. Um, and yet, here's a child who is bilingual. So let's just say that, because she is speaking English, but she was with her friends who speak Spanish, and so they're speaking Spanish with each other, right? Which is fine. That has nothing to do with their academic performance, or whether or not they're going to be, you know, unruly in class or anything like that. They're speaking a beautiful language within within a cultural dynamic. You know, if I was a bilingual, you better know I would be speaking that other language too, right? So I just it's like you just said, it's horrifying, because here's a child who's now emotionally scarred from that, right? And now has to deal with
But
that.
one thing,
Yeah,
I think you also make such a good point, though, because it truly is somebody who's trying to quell that cultural diaspora, because they don't want to see anyone thrive in any kind of culture that is different from white people, because it's
right,
threatening, and
right.
that's just wrong, man. It's wrong.
Yeah, it you know, and what is that culture?
Yeah,
Because
right. Right.
if we're clear, like Sheila, white, black, that kind of those things are constructs, right? They are social
Right.
constructs. It's not a nationality, it's not a race, it's not anything. It was man-made here in the United States specifically. What is
Even
that
race
all?
is
Yeah,
man-made
exactly. Exactly.
and primarily from the United States. So, yeah.
And so what, you know, you hear this undertone in this specific instance, where it's like, we're in America and we speak English, right? No, actually we speak English, Italian, French, German. I mean, there's all these languages because everybody comes from different places. Yes, our predominant language may be English, but that doesn't stop anyone else. And there's no law against people speaking a native tongue that they are culturally part of, right? Can you speak on that a little bit? 'Cause-
I I can. Can I? Yeah,
yeah.
yesterday I went to a ceremony at Syracuse University. My friend is the indigenous counselor, and it's a welcoming ceremony that they've brought back from the traditional Haudenosaunee. And in that time, they spoke. There were elders from the community of indigenous people who spoke about how the boarding schools ripped away their ability to speak their own language. And then the whole generation of parents didn't teach their children the language because they didn't want their children to go through the same pain. And
Wow.
so this is in the crux of our United States. This is so deeply embedded, and that desire, that systematic suppression of language is a way of controlling. And
Okay.
so the fact that it's
Hmm.
still happening in to different cultures, different languages in the schools is just like, it's time to wake up, everybody. We really need to.
And you know, so that it's, you know, we try to be apolitical, small p, nonpartisan. But in these instances, there's the connections between the trend. You just look at everybody just go out, do a Google search on any of this information, and you'll see this rising trend in racial animus, racial hate, violence against communities of color, violence against LGBTQ members of our society that has been on the rise as extremism has risen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit
Well,
about this dynamic a little bit too, Sinead?
well, it's funny. We can look at all the studies, and there have been many done over the past 10 years, let's say,
Mhm.
and we can talk about like microaggressions, especially in
Questions, right?
education. Lots of studies will say that the inherent biases, which we all have them, but especially in teachers, in this situation, we talked not that long ago about people in the medical field having them, but teachers have them,
Excellent.
and we hold them a little bit exalted.
Mhm.
But they have them, and studies have shown that teachers are white teachers are less likely to expect academic success from Black students, especially Black boys, right? And
Yeah.
because of that, that creates kind of this cycle where if that continues to happen, they're going to get kind of shuffled into a less rigorous academic program, curriculum, et cetera, and that might go back to what we were saying a little bit ago. Why are there fewer Black and brown teachers,
Right.
percentage wise?
Right.
Now that's
Right.
just been kind of happening. But to your point, in the past 8 years, let's say, there has been so much more overt aggression because people have been feeling so free to
Yeah.
speak their hate and to
Right.
speak their anger, and
Right.
like a certain aspect of the country not just feels free to speak it, but then the people who agree with that, or some dark corner of their mind and heart is like, yes, I feel that, so I'm going to go out and act on it. And
Right.
it's talk about a vicious cycle. So we're seeing this culture of hate become a culture of violence, and
Right.
it's terrifying to, I think, the kind of rational, reasonable portion of society, which I hope is the bigger part of us, but it's getting out of hand, to put it
Abs-
mildly.
Absolutely. Just to put a finer note on this, I was reading from an excerpt from that USA Today story that is, I think everybody should go out and read it. We'll have it in the link in our chat so that you can do that. One of the things they say in there is that nearly half of the principals who participated in the survey that's part of this report said that there was more or much more community conflict during the 2021 and 22 school year than there had been pre-pandemic. In fact, the main sources of the conflict involve teaching and learning about race and racism, policies and practices related to LGBTQ plus students, children's access to certain books in the library, and social emotional learning. Don't know about you guys, but isn't that all the things that people need to learn so that we can move away from racism, discrimination, sexual exploitation? I mean, all these different things. I mean, it's
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like the heavy-handed sector, the people who
right,
might be speaking out of an area of ignorance are the ones who are getting the most. They're getting the most talk time, and they're getting the most sway, which is
right,
terrifying.
right. Exactly. Wow. Listen, we're going to take another quick break, ladies. And when we come back, we're going to stay on this topic. We're going to kind of wrap this in maybe some ways that we can help support change or help support people talking more about change. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes here on Soulivity Today. Soulivity Today is brought to you by Assume control over your weight and broader health with the 80 Bites program by Physical Mind Institute.
For 50 years, we've been told, load up your plate with veggies. Load them up. Because all this spinach, look at it, all the spinach is only 100 calories. But avoid fat, because a tiny sliver of butter is also 100 calories. So spinach is good, butter is bad, right? But not today. Now we're told, put butter on everything, even in your coffee. Why? Because fat doesn't spike insulin, as carbs do. And stretching the stomach with all those veggies unbalances our digestive hormones. So eat healthy today means fat, fasting, stomach control, right here's the stomach. Forget calories. Hormones rule, and 80 Bites is the solution.
And we're back with more of Soulivity today. We are talking about the political climate and cultural climate and how this has become a battleground in our public schools. Ladies, we were just talking about this report that came out of USA Today and Pew, talking about the fact that these sources of conflict that are bubbling out in terms of not just our populace, but how educators are relating to their students as well. The videos that we showed today are just a couple of stories that go across the nation, specifically within the classic swing districts, where it's much more diverse in terms of not just politics, but also race, social economic status, and those kinds of things. What's one thing that each of you believes that we could do today, regardless of how difficult it is, right? Because we want to dream. I mean, 60 years ago on Sunday was the March on Washington. And Martin Luther King talked about, I have a dream. And that, that's where it begins, right? It doesn't end there, but that's where it begins. So Sinead, I'll go to you first. What's one thing that, regardless of how difficult it would be, that could maybe turn the tide in terms of how this is happening within our public schools?
Well, I think, it's not enough to have good intentions, obviously, and it's not even enough, I think, to be aware and to understand that, like I said, we all have inherent biases, but I think if we had a federal and state level training, professional development training, and I know that sounds really wonky, but
Right.
we do it. We do, DEI. If people were, came to the table and sat and learned and were eyes wide open, because people can say, yeah, I understand, I get it, I'm aware, I'm not racist, but you know what? You really might not realize how much you don't understand. And if it were part of their, doctors and lawyers, everybody in a professional capacity has to do continuing education. And
Yeah.
this really should be part of continuing education. I know, again, it's not very sexy, but that's my answer.
No, and that's fine. I mean, again, this is about, there is no one silver bullet, I don't think, to solving these things. And I think any idea that's bringing us together and getting us more aware of each other moves us in the right direction, right? Again, I would say to what you're just saying, I would say hold people accountable for their actions after they do that training, right?
Definitely, definitely.
You,
Well, that's
you know,
also the former lawyer in me says absolutely. Once, kind of like when you tell a child what they're meant to do, and then you have to follow through on the discipline. So once you get the
right,
training, if you don't, yeah, you have to. Once you know the law, if you break it, that's your punishment.
right,
100%, Brian. I agree.
right. Yeah. Sheila, what about you? What are you thinking?
So I know I've said this before, but I have a very strong visualization of what's happening in our world and in our country right now. And that's that
Mm-hmm.
we've had a deeply embedded infection that's rising to the surface like pus from a wound so that it can
Mm-hmm.
be healed.
Mm-hmm.
So that vision gives me the power to take action because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not feeling defeated. I'm seeing where we're going. And for me, focusing on the children and assuring that the children see me as a role model, as someone who is speaking up, um,
Mm.
and focusing on that they know that when they have an incident and they tell an adult, as in these cases that we got to see, the adults take action to make a difference so that they feel empowered. And then also, if I was in a district where there was schools like books that were, well, anywhere, even just online, if you know there's banned books, then send out a list. If I were a teacher in a school, I'd say, this is the list of books that are banned, so we can't let you read them. Like,
Right.
if we tell the people what is being taken out, human nature wants to go there. So let the kids learn and realize that all this attention, all this chaos is just, it can be, along with our help, inspiring children to actually learn after a very stagnant decade or 2 or 3 or 10 where
Mm-hmm.
schools
Mm-hmm.
were not very active in learning.
I
That's
love
my
this
idea.
combination. Yeah, I love the combination of both of what you both are saying. Um, um, you know, number one, I think certain people shouldn't be teachers. I just,
Mhm.
having grown up with educators and been around educators who were truly educators and inclusive educators, they were more, and they would help help the students to be aspirational. They would inspire them to be aspirational, regardless of race and social economic stature and that kind of thing. I'm remembering these were the staff that would actually, if there were students that were homeless, they would actually go find them and help them. I mean, that was the generation that I grew up with and was being built. That needs to be rebuilt again with everything that both of you are saying. That we're empowering our children who are the future, right? They're the dream that becomes reality, right? Because in truth, our kids get it. A lot of our kids already get it. They get the whole thing about that's racist or that's discriminatory and that kind of thing. And they're more inclusive than we are. So if we empower them to take charge of that process and really take charge of our world, I think we're going to be better for it. So again, thank you both. Thanks to both of you for being part of this conversation.
Oh.
I think we need to have more of these, and I think the more that we have these kind of conversations and pull it out to the world, that will be a catalyst for change as well. So thank you again for being here. Listen, everybody, we're going to just take a very, very quick break, and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today in just a second.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Would you like to be one of the first people to experience mental freedom? Mental freedom is a coaching practice with 6 core principles: improving hope, self-efficacy, optimism, resilience, and general well-being. Mental freedom only takes 6 sessions. It is designed to give you the tools you need to help yourself. It can help with any situation: relationship problems, past trauma, career decisions, parenting challenges, addiction, and mental health concerns. Incorporating the mental freedom framework into your life will deliver an approach to master any situation and a pathway toward achieving inner peace. Mental freedom provides the information and tools that you need to grow and be bigger than anything that ever happens to you. So if you're looking for one-on-one or a group coaching program that will allow you to address any situation that comes up in your life with practical tools to give you more peace and joy, then join the Mental Freedom Program in Soulivity Aspire Academy. There are very limited spots available, so don't delay. I hope to see you there.
Hey, we're back with more of Soulivity today. So much to talk about and so little time, right, ladies? Woo! I know it's never enough time. But let's get to some Soulivity shameless plugs. Sinead, as I said earlier, you're part of a very wonderful organization that is all about trying to push the envelope in terms of bringing racial equity and diversity and inclusion to our society. It's called Racial Fairness Brookshires. Can you tell people a little bit more about it?
So are a kind of a fledgling group out here in Western Massachusetts. What we try to do is we solicit goods and resources and, of course, money from the white community by trying to let us all know about the privilege that white people have, because we are all born with it in our knapsack. And in doing so, we bring all of those resources to our committee of entirely led of communities that really, really need it, because of course white people are the ones who are making the problem. We can't fix it.
Thank you for that. Wow. That's good work. That's some good work, girl.
Well, we're trying. We are trying.
And Sheila, you always have some amazing things going on. In fact, coming up in September, there's another Matrix of Illumination. Can you tell people about that?
Yes, on September 8th, we'll be doing the Matrix of Illumination on Aspire here with Soulivity. And that is a time where we come together. I guide you through a meditation to help you connect with yourself and with the spiritual energies around you. And then I open up for divine inspiration to come through me and what I would call a channeled message. It's very welcoming. So if this is all new to you, come and give it a try. It's only $22 to join, and it's very personalized, and the messages that come through are very profound, and they're for this moment, right? So it's something very practical that you can leave with some guidance for your next steps. And then I also have soul sessions, soul connection sessions. So if you want to try some of that one-on-one meditation and or a spiritual reading with me, please go to SheilaApplegate.com and use the code SOUL23 for a $44 discount off your first session.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thanks to both of you for making this another amazing show. We've got another fantastic show coming tomorrow for our Wellness Wednesday, and then we'll be talking about, Sinead, you'll be back on Thursday because we'll be talking about a fight against race-neutral admissions policies. Yeah, I didn't stutter. The fight against race-neutral admissions policies. So we'll be talking about that on Thursday. So thanks again to both of you for being
Looking
here.
forward to it.
Speaking of Soulivity.com, really quickly, I want to remind you to go visit our station at Soulivity.com, where you can read our latest content, and you can even check out Soulivity Today shows by going to Soulivity.com/Soulivity Today, and you can listen to them. You can even download them to your podcast provider and take us wherever you go. Also, just want to remind you too to visit us on social media, where you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I'm not going to call it that other name yet. And follow us. We put out a lot of special content that's in addition to Soulivity.com, tips about how to, create a better life for yourself, and practical information as well. So go follow us, because it's important. You'll learn a lot about us and where we're going, and how we can help you create your best life today. I just want to end today's show with a quote from one of my heroes, Martin Luther King Jr., who talks about all of this in the context of nonviolence, where he says nonviolence means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of spirit. You not only refuse to shoot a man, but you refuse to hate him. So take that in with today's show, and take that in with your life, that, this is an internal process as well. So with that, listen, I'm glad that you came here today and checked us out here for another show here at Soulivity Today. You can watch us every weekday from Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time for our live broadcast, or you can listen to us also at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on KMET 1490 AM radio out in Southern California, for all of you out on the West Coast. Until next time, keep having real conversations with passion and purpose, and use this to create your highest quality life today. As I said before, your best life. So take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has expressed